Recently, we went to go see Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the sequel to the 19... When did that first one come out, actually? 1988. Okay, 1988 comedy movie. With Tim Burton's second film. I did not realize that Pee-wee's Big Adventure was his first movie. That really, I did not know that. Kat told me about that. That it makes sense now that I think back on it, but okay. So Beetlejuice is one of Kat's favorite movies. We rewatched it recently. I'd seen it as a kid and I remember liking it a lot, but I haven't seen it in quite a while. So we watched it a week or two ago, just to kind of like get a refresh on it. And that movie really holds up. That's still like a fun movie. I would place that in like a genre, like it's a comedy. I would also say that its other genre is fun. It's just sort of a treat to see all the neat visuals and ideas and stuff that it presents. And Beetlejuice 2 is actually pretty good. Kat said that she thought it was about as good as the original, and I see where she's coming from. I don't know if I would say that exactly, just because I have like one singular problem with the film, so I don't know if I'd say it's as good. But like, if someone were to tell me they liked it as much as the first one, that makes a lot of sense. I see it. It's a lot of the same. Most of the same. Who's directing? Oh yes, Tim Burton. Tim Burton as director. Almost all of the entire cast. I believe there's only 3 actors from the original who don't show up again in this. The original couple from Beetlejuice 1, the ghosts, who are played by, oh god, what's her name? Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Alec Baldwin is just taking a break from acting for a little bit. That guy, I feel like that guy needs a rest. I feel really bad for him. And the only other person who doesn't return is the guy who plays Jeffrey Jones, the guy who plays Winona Ryder's dad, because he is a pedophile. He is a super pedophile. So he's not allowed on the streets anymore, much less in the studio around Jenna Ortega. But other than that, I think just about everyone from the first movie is back, who are, like major roles. Even like the fucking, what's her name? She plays the lady who's like the real estate agent. She's back too. No. It's not her. It's the character. Sorry. The lady herself isn't back. She might have died. I don't know. She has like a little, it's actually like a really funny little bit. I like it. A little visual gag in the original is, the lady who's the real estate agent who she's trying to get the Maitlands to sell the house. And, they're always like annoyed with her and stuff. And she gets into like her car and her little daughter is in the back seat. And they're wearing like almost the same thing. Like they're styled in exactly the same way. It's very funny. And I is it the same? I wonder if it's the same actress who played the daughter. That would be funny. But it's at the very least the same character. It's pretty much everyone back. And it's just sort of like a pretty fun screwball comedy, which there haven't been like any I feel like there's been zero of that type of movie in the last, it feels like 10 years, at least in American cinemas. Comedies are in a very weird spot in terms of the Hollywood system, where I'm trying to even think of big studio comedies that have come out recently, and none really. They're always like action comedies or something like that. But this is just like a straight ahead comedy film. And you know what? I thought it was pretty funny. The lots of sight gags, lots of fun little dialogue bits. It has my favorite thing, which is awkward humor. There are several awkward scenes, which I love. This is intentionally awkward. And genuinely, I think a really nice building upon of the characters from the original. So the premise of the sequel is that... Oh, what's her name? What's the character's... Lydia Dietz. I don't know why that escaped me. Winona Ryder's character, Lydia Dietz. She's now grown up, and she has... A lot of stuff has happened in her life. She had a husband. The husband died. She has like this new boyfriend. She has a daughter who's Jenna Ortega. And they make that make sense by having the dead husband. He was like something South American. So that's why Jenna Ortega gets to look like a Latina compared to the very white Winona Ryder. And I really liked the way that they wrote Jenna Ortega and Winona Ryder's dynamic, because one thing that I feel is a little bit underrepresented in fiction is a child who is completely... What you see a lot, which is that oftentimes people try to be the exact opposite of their parents. And I think it's actually really clever the way that they write their relationship and how Jenna Ortega's character acts and her whole attitude and everything. Because Winona Ryder's character, Lydia, is, she's like an 80s little goth girl. And she's all into spiritualism and all this, hokey pokey stuff. And Jenna Ortega is like the exact opposite. She actually kind of resents her mother. She thinks it's actually... she basically thinks her mom is a fraud because she's been... Lydia's deal since the first movie, now that she's grown up, is she's used her talent for speaking to ghosts, and she's basically like Zach Baggins. She's doing like ghost adventures. There's a really funny clip where they show like her ghost hunting show, and it's her. They do like the night vision green camera thing, and it's her walking into she's like, okay, we're going to go into the kitchen, and they walk into the kitchen, and immediately like all the cabinet doors just start opening and slamming and stuff. Like the table flips over and like the window shatters and stuff is flying all over the room. And like the camera slowly turns around to look at her, and she's just standing there and she's going, okay, I'm feeling a dark presence. I think we should get out. Meanwhile, Jenna Ortega's character, Astrid, I'm sure that's some kind of reference to like the occult or something, is like super... She can't see ghosts. She does not inherit the gift. And she kind of resents her mom. You kind of get this impression that Lydia has been sort of prioritizing her career over her family, and the way that Astrid talks about her dad is way more like warm and loving, and you can tell that she had a very close relationship to him, and so she intentionally takes after him way more. Like he was all into like social causes and environmentalism and stuff, and that's like a big deal for her, and like travel. And she is a very like facts and science, and I only trust what I can see kind of thing. she also doesn't like her mom's new boyfriend, who's this guy. It's funny, like at the start of the movie, what's his name? I forget what's his character's name. Rory, yeah, Rory. At the start of the movie, you really don't know like what his deal is. He kind of seems like he's her producer, and then you kind of figure out that he's her boyfriend also, and you can't really tell like if he's trying to, if he's just like exploiting her, or if he cares about her, or like, are they like, is he like mildly like possessive, or like you really can't get a handle on him, which sort of, it feels intentional. It feels like that's sort of how he likes it. Like, you know, he's just kind of and it feels like he's maybe got something a little more insidious going on, but I just could not. He just came off so weird. Like, what's his game? What's his game plan for this? And obviously Astrid absolutely despises him. She thinks he's a loser. The way he talks is like, there's like a scene of him trying to talk to her and be like, I just think I could be like a cool dad, like a dope guy. just completely failing to make any kind of connection. Much like the first movie, it takes a while for Beetlejuice to show up. Is this movie 104 minutes? Seriously? Wow. That does not feel as it's less than 2 hours. That's funny. Okay, if there's one knock against this film, it's that I think it feels a little bit too long, and it's a little bit unfocused. And by that I mean it has like one too many plot lines going on. And to the degree where it was a little bit difficult for me to sort of keep track of what the main plot of the movie was. In the original, it's pretty simple. It's this married couple dies, a new family moves in, they really don't like the parents, and they're basically trying to scare them and haunt them and get them out of the house because they can't, because they're bound to the house, they can't leave. And so they're trying to scare them off the premises like a Scooby-Doo villain, and in the process of doing this, unleash this like weird demon ghost guy Beetlejuice, who is like this chaotic force of nature almost type trickster. I think in the new one they call him a trickster demon, which is a pretty good way to describe him. Pretty apt, I think. Which leads to the plot happening, and Beetlejuice has his own ulterior motives and all that. So overall, pretty standard plot. Standard plot? I don't know. Straightforward plot. I won't call it standard, but pretty straightforward plot. And a lot of the appeal of that original movie, I would say, is in the fun aspect of, I don't want to use the word world building, but it's the way that all the fun concepts that are introduced. Like, you've got this whole afterlife, and it's a very unique take on what the afterlife is like, with lots of really memorable visuals and concepts, and like, oh, it works like kind of like a bureaucracy, and there's a waiting room to get into the afterlife, and they've got offices in there, and you have to go to like a desk worker, and everyone who's there is like in the form that they were in when they died. So there's like a guy with his head chopped off. There's a guy who's just like he's just been flattened because he got run over by a car and stuff like that. And of course, all on like practical Tim Burton sets and using puppetry and stop motion and all that cool stuff. It's just like a real treat. Like it's a fun movie to watch. I keep saying that because that was probably the number one emotion I felt while watching the movie. For a sequel, well, a big draw of that first film was being introduced to all these concepts. And, well, you already did that, so you can't really rely on that again. So you got to have a little bit more going on plot-wise. And I would say that Beetlejuice has, like, one too many plots. The way I've been describing it, the stuff that stuck out the most to me is really the family story with Winona Ryder and Jenna Ortega and the boyfriend. And fucking Winona Ryder's mom, that character, the mom from the original movie, who is still like this crazy, I'd say crazy, but like this really high on her own supply, like modern artist type who's just totally self-obsessed. Like, she's great, and it's really fun. There's a very unique dynamic in the movie of you have 3 different generations of grandmother, mother, and daughter. And all of them interplaying, and it's really fun to see. Again, like, I really like the way the family dynamics are written in this movie, because you get to see the way that each one of these women has reacted to being raised by their mother. When you see, I have to look up the actress's name. She's the mom from Home Alone. Catherine O'Hara. When you see how the way that she acts, and then you see Lydia as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then when you see kind of the way that Lydia has turned out herself, and you see how Astrid acts, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I see that. And knowing like who the fathers are and all that, like, that's the most interesting stuff to me in the movie, like, plot wise. And the it's kind of funny because for a Beetlejuice movie, feels like he kind of is not like he also honestly doesn't even feel like the focal point of the original too much either. He just kind of shows up and fucks around and causes problems and ends up being like the major conflict of the film. In this one, he's like, they try to give him a little bit more to do. The one superfluous plot line is Beetlejuice has like this ex-wife who's like a stapled together ghost woman who sucks people's souls out, and there's a lot of time dedicated to it in the first chunk of the movie of like her being introduced and her going around sucking out like the souls of these already dead people. So she's like absorbing them, she's like killing them for real, like essentially destroying their souls. And like fucking Willem Dafoe is in the movie. He's an actor. He's the ghost of an actor who played cops in like television roles or TV roles. That's the same thing. I meant movie roles. He played cops like in movies, and now he's like a cop in the afterlife, and he's like doing the whole thing. And he's like really into the act and stuff because like nothing ever happens. So he's always just practicing in front of his mirror and flirting with his like assistant who's always bringing him coffees. And it's very funny. Great Willem Dafoe. I didn't even know he was in it. I love seeing Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe. Also known by the Spanish-speaking community as Guillermo del Enemigo. There's like this whole thing with the ex-wife and all that, and she matters almost nothing to the film. Like, I was thinking about it, and you can take her out, and nothing about the movie really changes. Nothing about the film really changes, which is what led to it feeling a little bit longer than it actually is, because it's like, you spend a lot of time on this, and then it's, now we're going to the actual plot, which is like, the 3 generations coming back together in the original town, and this whole thing with Jenna Ortega and this guy that she meets. And like, when that showed up, I didn't know that was going to be an important part of the movie. It just felt like, oh my god, are we adding another plot line? And it turns out, no, that's actually a core part of the film. It all ties together in the end, right? But it does have a little bit of sort of extraneous fluff that I feel like maybe could have been worked out of the script. The Beetlejuice stuff that is there is fun. It's kind of funny because Michael Keaton is in so much makeup that he looks the exact same. He genuinely, he looks the exact same as he did 40 years ago. He's still got it. He's still got it. You can tell he really likes playing this role. He's having a lot of fun. And the Beetlejuicy effects. So, okay, here's the thing. One of the things that I was interested in this movie, that interested me about this movie, that Kat was she was telling me because she was excited about it, was that it was going to be mostly practical again. And I want to say 90% of the movie is practical effects. There's a little bit of CGI, which is, I don't know, just normal. It's stuff like touching up backgrounds, and there's one scene with like snakes, I believe, where they're like supposed to be real live snakes, and they have to move in a sort of specific way that I was like, okay, yeah, well, I see why they CGI'd that. But most of it is puppets and real sets and crazy zany lighting and stop motion stuff. There is a whole stop motion like flashback sequence that's very fun and charming. Like visually, probably on par with the original at least. And in terms of being like, okay, I hate the term legacy sequel. It just makes my skin crawl. And I have been... Something I've learned is that I really dislike modern movie trailer styles, like the editing. I think the editing might stick out more to me because, I am an editor. But like, because I can literally see like all the decisions that are being made and picture how they're being made in the trailer, it just kind of makes my skin crawl. I hate it. It's so cringe to me. And one of the things I really dislike about the marketing for movies like this and why it feels so cheap is that it feels like it's banking entirely off of nostalgia. Like, we're going to play the song from the first movie, but it's going to be in a piano. It's going to be like a slow piano rendition, and it's going to be in a minor key. And, I remember like when we got the trailer for the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, was that the second one of the new ones they were doing? I think it was Frozen Empire. I remember, because Ghostbusters is a fucking screwball, wacky ass comedy. And then they have this trailer that's like so self-important. Your grandfather saved New York. And I'm like, dude, like it's a Marshmallow Man. Like, it's dumb. Like, I think it's dumb. And I just remember like looking at Kat and going, that looks like a really funny comedy. That was so funny. And the marketing for BJBJ, that's what we in the biz call it, gave me that same impression of we're not selling you on the movie, we're selling you on the name. That I find so repulsive of like, you remember Beetlejuice? It's Beetlejuice. Doesn't that make doesn't that give you the goosebumps? You little 80s kid, you little consumerist slut. Aren't you excited for the thing from your childhood again? Whoa, we're presenting it as being super important because it's important to you. To you. Not because the story is high stakes. Like, imagine if there was no original, right? And these types of trailers came out. It would be like, what? This is a horrible... like, what is this? And it's funny because the movie itself, BJBJ, doesn't do that. It is actually very not nostalgia pandery. There are a couple things that I can like kind of nitpick, like Bob, the shrunken head guy from the first movie, is back, but there's like a bunch of him for some reason. He's like a minion. He's like the Minions for some reason, when there was just supposed to be one guy. I guess they pissed off a lot of African shamans. Also, yeah, really funny that's like a super marketable character who is based on like a racist stereotype about like fucking African voodoo practitioners. Like the whole shrunken head thing. There's like that, but it's like, I don't know, whatever. There was a woman in the audience who got really excited when Bob showed up. She was like, Bob! It's Bob! I guess there's some real Bob fans out there. Like the sandworm from the original comes back, and it's like, I guess that's just a part of the afterlife, is the sandworms. Like, that's where you go when you step out of the house and all that. Okay, fine. I can accept that. They don't even do like really corny like dialogue references. Like, not that like really stuck out to me. They aren't like, here's the line that we're gonna say again, and you know it because you watched that movie or the other movie. Like, it really was not rubbing it in your face, and was not relying, for the most part, didn't rely on imagery from the original, which I appreciated a lot. There's a lot of new stuff in this. There's just like fun new, like, okay, there's like a dry cleaners in the afterlife, There's a detective's office, and what does that look like in the afterlife? There's I really liked the Soul Train, which is like this Motown 70s disco soul. It's a reference to that. It's like a train station with all these corpses and stuff like dancing around. And they're all playing like Motown music. Like fun new ideas that were engaging to look at. I was never bored while watching the movie. I was a little bit confused as to where it was going, and at points it felt a little bit disorganized because, it felt like it had, that whole ex-wife plot took a little too much screen time for something that didn't end up being very important. Michael Keaton, when he shows up and does his thing, it's fun because it's like, oh, now he and Lydia, there's a point in the movie where they have to like cooperate with each other. And that's like fun. That's a new dynamic to throw in there. He is still the same character. He is still, I appreciate that, they looked at the original Beetlejuice character and they were like, this is a guy who like shows up and just like gropes women and tries to marry a 13-year-old girl. And they did not shy away from that at all in the new one. He is still like a pedophile rapist freak. And it's great. I love it. He's working an office job and he has a picture of 13-year-old Winona Ryder on his desk. Like, he's still not over it. It's hilarious. Overall, genuinely pretty good movie. I appreciate that it exists. One of the few of these legacy sequels that was like, that actually felt justified and like it was worth making. It was good enough to warrant being made. I think if you liked the original, you'd probably like this one as well. I should say, so when Kat and I went to go see this, we saw like kind of a matinee. We saw like a slightly early showing of it, like a 5 p.m. showing or so. Pretty packed, all things considered, for a movie theater post-COVID. They're typically pretty empty. The only one I can think of that was more full was maybe the Mario movie, or let's see, Barbie had a lot of people. Oppenheimer had a lot of people. Despicable Me 4 had a lot of families. Most of our audience was alt girls, which Kat observed immediately. She like sniffed them out. And all right, so during the previews, we got a trailer for Joker 2, and Joaquin Phoenix showed up on screen. It wasn't immediately obvious like what movie it was, at least not to me. But the shot that Joaquin Phoenix shows up, a girl in the audience like squeaked. She went like, it's him. And that was so fascinating to me. Like that's your big crush is like the guy, like he's supposed to look weird, and I don't understand. Dude, I do not understand straight women. Straight women are an enigma. Straight women and their tastes are an enigma to me. I don't get it at all. I just thought that was really funny. Like I heard it, I was like, oh my god, someone's got to wipe down that chair. Joaquin Phoenix showed up on screen for 5 seconds. So yeah, that was genuinely, I had a good time. I would recommend it. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, or BJ.